Hello again to everyone who is tuning in and whenever, wherever, and however they're doing so to this podcast recap installment for episode 7 of the sci-fi original series Revival. Spoilers abound, as we always note, so please only check this podcast episode out if it is after you are fully caught up to and have seen episode 7 entitled Too Many Secrets. We're back at it discussing it with myself, Sean Talley, and with Liz MacArthur, as always. How are you, Liz?
Hi, good. Listen, I missed you guys. I mean it. I missed you.
Do we expose? Do we pull behind the curtain and say we're here?
We're doing two episodes back to back. Yes,
yeah. It's fine. Sorry. Well, no, I mean, in all honesty, if you want some full transparency, the guys are on their way to San Diego Comic-Con to do a presentation and panel on this very show. So that's very exciting. I think it's you two, along with the top 4 or so Build cast members.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And Tim Mike as well. Yep.
Exactly. Very Tim Mike from the comics. So yeah. It's great.
So yes, in case you're listening to this down the road, you know whereabouts this was being done. So yes, we did bank a couple, and it is to promote the show. So yes, the we in question, I said myself, Liz, joined as always by the creators, the showrunners of this television program. Thank you again for joining us, Luke Boyce and Aaron B. Koontz.
Thank you as always.
Delighted.
Yes, we came off of a crazy episode 6 that we had some folks reeling. So this one is certainly got some fallout from it. This one, again, written by Noel Carbone, who I think we forgot to mention had another shout out along with Newman the Pug and many other things in the last episode. You guys mentioned Carbone. I assume that was a
Carbone refrigeration.
There you go.
Carbone refrigeration.
So yes, we will jump right into number 7 here. We open on M still holding Dana in the warehouse, pleading with her to fight. We actually do see Dana come to, but this healing process actually takes M out. And when Dana is finally upright, she tries to get her to wake up. Dana walks her out of the building where we see Ibrahim, who helps her with M. Dana asks where Cooper is, and he says she's in the car, or he's in the car. She also asks, too many pronouns, pal, what about Jordan? To which Ibrahim says, she's going to be okay. So, he's seen some shit. But he asks what happened, and Dana tells him that she healed her somehow, and she doesn't know. There's something wrong with her right now, though. Ibrahim says she thinks she might be dying, and Dana says revivers can't die, right? Again, I don't know how many people she's accidentally told, but Ibrahim goes, reviver. Dana again asked him to protect him and to get her out of here. He says he will, and that he actually might know a way to fix her. So later, Dana is in the car with Cooper. He asks if she's sure she's okay, and she asks him the same, and Cooper says he's a little scared, and then he kind of lays it all out here. He tells her, you got shot, Auntie M's really sick, Jordan touched the glowy thing and poofed away, and now everybody's going to find out what Auntie did to those people, and then Grandpa's going to put her in a camp. So, out of the mouths of babes.
He's been paying attention.
So Dana tells him that she's going to take care of everything. She also tells him that she's good, which he doesn't even understand, after all that she's been through as well. So she's actually going to drop him with Jeannie and go find M and make sure Gramps doesn't do anything dumb, and they will find Jordan as well. Cooper reiterates that she's gone, but he actually thinks that's a good thing. And he tells her, Dr. Ibrahim saw it too. Don't you believe us? And, she says it's that she doesn't understand it more than she doesn't believe it. But at this point, we do actually see Jeannie pull up behind them, and she does take Cooper from her to watch him while Dana runs off and hopefully solves some of this. So we are now on Blaine and Tyler in a church. Blaine tells him that in this holy place, we will close the gates of hell and build this church anew. But first, they will, quote, show the people the power that God has bestowed on us. This is a moment that's intercut with JP showing Wayne camera footage from the warehouse, which he makes sure to note that the governor has access to, has access to as well. And Wayne actually sees on this camera footage him stabbing and killing Andrew Check in the hallway. JP asks him, Wayne, is Martha a reviver? And Wayne just slams the laptop closed here. Back to Tyler. He's asking Blaine how they'll achieve this, and Blaine tells him, quote, by sending our avenging angel to send those demons back to hell one by one. And that's when we go to our opening credits.
Yeah, the thing about an episode like 6, where everything gets nuts and crazy, is then you've got aftermath. It's like I tell my daughter, you can play with all the toys you want, but you're going to have to clean them up. afterwards. So that's where we're at. We're cleaning up because there's a lot of information. A lot of people have now know this information or need to know this information.
There's piss everywhere.
Piss everywhere. Yes.
Blood and piss all over the place.
This was a tease too that we reworked multiple times.
Yeah.
And kind of played with just because of framing some stuff that happens in this episode. We ended up pulling the Blaine stuff into the tease, which actually was an idea from editor Kurt on this. Kurt and Mark both worked together on this, but and I think it helps because we're making sure we're understanding the stakes, and especially once you see what Blaine's up to in this episode and where that goes. But yeah, like it was, one of the things we always talked about the whole time we were developing this, which is, okay, so it starts with don't tell dad. Like, when do we tell dad, and how does dad find out? And we had all these there's things in the comic. We had a much bigger way that dad was going to find out, an explosive way, if you know the comic, and some things that we talked about. But I think in the end, once we realized what had to happen in 6, we're like, he's going to know. Like, there's just no way that we can hold this from him anymore. It just became inevitable. And so, it didn't become like it's time to tell dad. It just became it's time dad has found out. And there just were no more. It just felt implausible to have held it beyond this anymore. And even Ibrahim is kind of like, he's like, when he says he's like reviver, and it's almost like, wait, that makes sense, but also holy shit at the same time, right? Because there's so much stuff going on, but if you took the time to sit down and like isolate out, there's a lot of like, wait a second, I kind of feel like M's a reviver. There's plenty that smart people will be putting together that are there, and so it became that secret no longer needs to be a secret. It needs to be, and again, writing, you talk about conflict and all this, it needs to be a hindrance. So now let's alert. The governor's seen it. What does that mean? What's going to happen? And obviously, right when we come back from this tease, we'll see what the ramifications are of the governor and everyone knowing it's not just Arlene. Here's another reviver. Yeah, the Chuck brothers aren't good, but look at what they're doing. Look at what they're capable of on the security footage. Like that ain't good. And it is very bad for Martha and Cypress.
In fact, there's early versions of 6 where we pretzeled ourselves into trying to find ways to hide Wayne from the action. We were like, well, the only way this can go forward is if Wayne just doesn't know what's going on, right? Because if you think about it, as soon as he finds out that his, daughter was taken by these people who are cutting reviver parts, I mean, the knowledge of all this and the actual stuff that happens in this are huge. We have to raise those stakes. We have to escalate. And I remember Aaron and I talking like, what are we doing? Like, we're just going to Wayne just has to know. Like, we can't keep this charade going. And so that was sort of a turning point, even in the development, was just going, no, as much as these other ideas are great, just like the process of, where that could go, this had to be the moment, because there's no other way for this moment to be big and for it not to have those reverberations. Those reverberations are going to happen. And now we just have to deal with it, and we have to find a way to deal with it. So yeah.
Yeah, hard not to think so, just on the fallout of his decision so far becoming a rolling snowball because of this. So yeah, he may have found out late, but a lot of people are going to be pissed at him for the decisions made regardless. So we actually, we come back on Wayne. He barges into Dana's house and yells, "Why didn't you tell me Martha died?" But he quickly notices a bloody shirt on a chair, and then Dana's actually over at the kitchen sink washing some blood from her face. And he's like, "Wait, you were stabbed? You were in the ICU and now you're standing here? Wait, don't tell me you're a reviver too." He says, just worst case scenario in Wayne's eyes, of course. But no, Dana tells him, no, M healed me, and it doesn't compute with Wayne. Dana says it doesn't make sense to her either, but, M seems special, and she pulled off some, quote, pretty biblical shit. Wayne says you need to sit down and tell me everything, but Dana points out that, you've done everything but turn the town against revivers to putting them in camps. He's still kind of focused on asking, how did Martha die? Dana says she's been trying to figure out who killed her, to which he yells, wait, she was murdered? So again, Wayne getting so much piecemeal information here. And a voice actually yells out from the front yard, and they both walk out. And it is none other than no longer Sheriff, but now mortal enemy Mayor Dillish, who walks up and just punches Wayne in the face. As Aaron has teased us for ages now, there's punches in the past, there's punches in the future, there's punches in the present here. Dana asks, what the hell? Dillish, says he got a call from the governor, and shit is completely out of control. And at this point, Diane actually steps out of the car and says, Ken, we need to leave now. And Wayne's like, wait, you're splitting town? He goes, yeah, I'm getting out of here. Dana decides, wait, Diane's a reviver? So again, just more pieces being put together. At this point, though, a handful of unmarked SUVs roll up and a handful of armed men, along with our first meeting of General Kale. She approaches. She tells them, on the order of the governor, Wausau is now under martial law, and tells the men to take that reviver, and they grab Diane and walk her to a vehicle. Dillish tries to object and stop them, of course, but for his trouble takes a nice rifle butt to his stomach, and shit is escalating quickly here.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the thing, we thought about this, like, what would actually happen, And so General Kale is a big part of the comic, comes up much later in the comics, but when you think about, you've seen escalation within society in real life to this level. I mean, they literally are trying to call martial law in LA right now because of nothing, right? So like that's what the government wants to do, right? And so they're trying to enact these things, and so it makes sense where it's like, look, I'm done with this. There's revivers. We clearly thought we had this under control. We don't. There's the Arlene situation. There's other things that would have even happened, behind the scenes, I'm sure, and they can heal, and Wayne's already created Riverside. So they can't control this. Let's bring in the military and let them do it. And to me, it feels completely logical for what they would do, for what we're understanding and considering in our world, and how people would react. And so to feel that escalation, it just felt like this makes sense to have Kale, come in here, played by Konima Parkinson Jones. Wonderful. So much fun on set. She's such a blast. Like, it's so funny because she's so menacing. And then you talk to her and she's like just a joy, like just the sweetest person, which is a really fun juxtaposition. But yeah, like, there's so many things happen so fast that what I hate in shows sometimes is when, well, how do they know that? And well, they had to have learned off screen. And so like, we like to have like little lines where Ibrahim's like, reviver? And then Dana's like, wait, Diane's a reviver? And then, and Wayne's like, are you a reviver too? And like, what happened? And all these things, like, that you want to get them the information, but at least there's something fun. The best example of this was K and M in episode 5, where K's learning everything about Aaron, and like, you were there and then she was shot, and like, oh my God, your family, So we have a lot of those moments, and I think it's fun to see those on screen and realize, oh yeah, they don't know this stuff yet, which I think is fun. And David plays that really well, and oh my God, you're a reviver too. And not Jehovah level though, just to be clear. Yeah. Biblical, but it still is biblical.
There's a bit of a dismantling of Wayne's hubris here right at the beginning, right? Because we're like, right off the bat, I think, you're surprised by his reaction to M. I think everyone is expecting for him to absolutely lose it, right? But he's softer, right? Like he's in there and he's talking to Dana, and he's just like, he's kind of broken by it. He's like, why didn't you tell me this? And so, there's that surprise, but then, really it's like, we're kind of finding out the governor had him on a leash. Like, he thought that he was in charge here. He was acting as though he was in charge, but we know that from the very beginning, he's in over his head. He's constantly complaining about lack of resources. He's constantly complaining about what to do and how to run it. And it barely takes anything. It takes Arlene, and it takes a, crazed M murdering people in a warehouse, and boom, it's out of his hands now. And that's kind of a lot of this. They're just waiting in the wings. They're just waiting for it to just get out of control enough, which makes sense, right? It's a massive event. All these people have come back to life. Nobody knows why in the small town. They just needed an excuse to raise the level here.
No, indeed. We get some overhead shots of Wausau as we're hearing news footage from Miss Katie saying, quote, "A citywide manhunt is on for the reviver who murdered 3 brothers in a warehouse. This brutal act has prompted the governor to call for military containment efforts, which will be led by General Kale." And, she adds, "Kale and her men will be taking into custody every reviver in Wausau until the suspect is found." And while hearing the second half of this, we're actually in Ibrahim's place, who has it on the television. He is at his desk while Em is in bed. She's covered up, but she's shivering like crazy. She's having flashes of getting all stabby and shooty and murdery on the checks the night before. And the footage actually cuts to reporter May Tao, who adds that they are also looking for an elderly woman, Wanda Peterson, and a young child, Jordan Burchart. And that's when we hear a man who says, they cut to like a news bit where you hear an off-screen person saying, "They came into my home, they took my grandmother." And May adds that, this aggressive and controversial decision has family and friends of revivers in a panic, as no timeline for the release has been stated. So yeah, panic is sort of set in on the town. Obviously, martial law is going to cause chaos. But during this moment, Ibrahim does walk over to Em, and he gives her a mouth swab of what he was working on. She rises up, but then just falls right out of bed. So he picks her up and puts her back in as we do go to break on the news, which switches over to a full Manning's Meats commercial spot.
Why?
Why not?
I think so we talked about this, and I think it was the norm. There was something fun to us about the idea of the normalcy of the town being broken by what's going on, right? So what you're doing is so first off, Manning Meats is owned by a reviver, Damon Manning, right? Who we meet from the beginning, and then also in episode, I think it's 4 or 5. And has now his store, which would have been closed down because he's the owner of it and he had died, but now he's back, and they're putting spots out because this is a place where people came for family, and this is a small town, and people came there and they would buy their meats and go on picnics and all these things. And there was just something about knowing that now this man who is, has this commercial that's like about bringing families together. His family is being torn apart in this moment. He's a reviver. He is being taken from his family because all revivers are being taken and they're being thrown into Riverside, which we met in episode 6, right? To this facility that Wayne has enacted. But without even getting into the level of like realizing the reviverness of it, just the juxtaposition alone of hearing someone, like, "I can't believe this is happening. Why would you do this to my family? Why are you tearing families apart? And it's awful, and the town is ripped apart." And then it cuts to a commercial, which happens all the time, right? Like Stephen Colbert always does this. He'll show like these great cuts of like, it's here, then the commercial is something completely ridiculous. Yeah. But then, and now the commercial is about, "Hey, the town's open. It's great. Come down and, meats are neat, and whatever. And families come together." And there was just something I really thought was a little poignant and interesting about showing that and giving and pushing in on that and just remembering how far this town has come. Like, to me, it's similar to Baby M and then M in the hallway in the Tease of 6, right? Of like, there was this innocence that was there and has now become this killing machine. And now we are in this martial law in Wausau, Wisconsin. People are being torn apart from their homes. Everybody's in a panic, complete chaos. But here's where that normalcy was, which was come on down and buy some meat and have a picnic and have fun. And seeing how the town's been torn apart. I think it was just a way of illustrating that was the goal.
I mean, but, I got it. I also just was amused that the entirety of the commercial got shown. It wasn't just like a little 10-second bit. It was like a full commercial, which is great. And then, yeah, jingle and all, like catchphrase, the whole thing, like local commercials we grew up with always had. But big credit goes to Luke for how we were crafting that. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to do that. And Luke was integral in both that and then just quick tidbit, the news. So episode 7, so many things had to be recontextual. They're talking about the movie you write, shoot, and make. This is the best example of it.
Yeah.
Of like, we had a press conference with Kale that was meant to be shot and got cut. And we were like, you can't cut it, but it just never got back on the schedule. It got pushed and all this. It was a complete mess. So then Luke and I were looking at the scene, and we had the TV in the foreground, and it was meant to be kind of something a little bit different. There was going to be a little bit on the news there, but not quite what it was. And so Luke and I were like, we need to set the stage for this town. And so the military vehicles and coming in and all this stuff, like all these things were things that we added. Even Samir's like, oh, that's a great shot with all that. And because he didn't shoot any of it, and what was there and how we were able to kind of put this stuff together. And so it was definitely an odd construction to kind of get there. And it was very hard to kind of work through this and tell the story that we wanted to tell, with all, we were repurposing footage. And I mean, it would be wild if we actually went into the detail and told you all everything that we changed for how to make that. But we wanted to set the stage and feel the military's presence beyond just the scene that's in the grass, in front of Wayne's house. Or in front of Dana's house, excuse me. So, Luke was integral in just like trying to put this together and the new stuff and how this could work, and then Maytow popping in and feeling the town. And I think it works really well. And the same thing kind of leads into this next scene going into Riverside, but was a lot. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, there was an economy to it. You're getting information visually with Ibrahim and M. You're getting audio information as well through that telecast. So yeah, bravo, Luke.
I'm in it too.
And you're in it? Oh,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
I'm the guy complaining about. It's not my voice, but it's my face.
Oh, gotcha. Yes. We speaking of Riverside, we are back at that facility, and Miles is joined by Carla and one of the armed military personnel here, overseeing what she's up to. Miles tells Carla, you're not like the others. I've seen you. Rhodey tells him through the vent that he'll be okay. And again, sad moment here, but we actually cut away and hear Miles yell out. As Wayne is now on site as well, he's walking through the halls with General Kale. They stop by a room and look over and see like a really heavy-duty jail cell being constructed. Wayne asks what that's for. Kale asks if he has any information on a murderous survivor. At this point, Dillish walks by, and Kale essentially rats on him right in front of him, like, Kenny told us that M is a reviver in exchange for his safety. And Wayne kind of flips out on him and is like, you son of a bitch. Dillish says, you didn't care about my family. Why should I care about yours? So, heavy stuff with them again. I understand all the punches. We find Dana in her home. She walks the box of files over to the kitchen table and kind of rolls out almost a map of some sort, but basically a big thing she's about to do. Liz's favorite, the Charlie Day red yarn connecting board. But,
finally.
Yeah. This whole bit does intercut with Blaine again. Again, Blaine's kind of used in a good economical way here too, being intercut throughout the episode. He's giving another one of his radio sermons in front of a wall with a newspaper cover that happens to have a header that reads, "Local pastor's boy becomes stigmata boy," I believe is how it was phrased. But Dana is going through these files as Blaine continues on about demons and the damned and their days being numbered, and, quote, "Through me, he will collect his flock. I am now the door which our Father has opened." So we end on that with Dana just appearing to have put something together through all the photos and files.
Another so much changed, from what was there. And once we got into post and how we reworked this and made this montage work, it wasn't written this way, but we wanted to feel his presence and what was there and play this off. So it was a different thing. I mean, you want to feel like, okay, a lot of craziness has happened with Dana, but she's back, and it's like, I need to figure out what the hell happened to my sister, right? Because I, like, as an audience, I'm feeling that. I'm like, okay. All this stuff's going on, but there's still a murder to solve, right? And that's here. And that's something that Dana can get action going forward. And so we wanted to regroup the audience of like, while there is all this shit going on and it is crazy and martial law and all this, Dana is still, her goal is still in front of her. And so she needs to start unpacking what this all means, right? Like, Brett shot me. Why? What the hell does that mean? What does Aaron have to do with all this? And so we've had so many things that have, Dana was right on the cusp. If you really think about, Dana has not been able to investigate for 2 episodes, right? So for the most part, right? She's asked some questions and things when she was in bed to her dad a little bit, and like it couldn't have been McCrae, and why is this related? But like, is the shooting related to M or not? But like, we as an audience know M was there, and like, you know, so it's tied to Aaron, so it feels like it is, but what does that mean? So I think we needed to see Dana, you know, as our audience kind of like into this and acting and moving stuff forward, while also feeling, you know, we've you know, I think we showed Blaine's episode, I think once before, but you know, his sermon and his radio show, but just feeling, you know, what this guy's saying about the town, and that like he was saying revivers were bad this whole time, and now the military's been called. I mean, this is just justifying Blaine, right? It's really, it's almost prophetic in what he's saying, right? And so if you start to think about and dissect, you know, Blaine's position, and then what is happening in the town, and if you have that purview, this is just going to be, you know, confirmation bias, right, of what this is. So it's only going to enforce, you know, where, I mean, like, what would Fox News say when this just happened? What would happen, right? What would they come out and say? And I think, you know, Blaine is, you know, I think Steve and I would be very upset if I said he was the Fox News, but but there is something to be said, you know, about what it is that he's unearthing there.
Right. Speaking of, Tyler walks in as Blaine is ending his program and asks him if it's time for their ascension. Tyler is ready, and Blaine agrees with him. So more on them shortly. We see Wayne now bound on the floor, and Kale is saying to her soldiers, you know, or he's saying to him, excuse me, that her soldiers will find her. She offers the same deal as the mayor if he will just help bring her in safely. She pulls a gun on him and says there's another way. And Wayne, at this point, in his most vulnerable state, I think we've seen him so far, just starts with do it. He kind of unburdens his soul here. He's saying his daughter, you know, didn't tell him. He had no idea till the video came out. Neither of his girls trust him, and he has failed them. So he just reiterates, he says, go ahead, do it. She won't come. She'll be glad I'm gone. And honestly, David's great here. Kale just kind of looks at him almost with pity right here before we cut away. So bravo to DJE on that one.
Yeah, big time. Big props. Yeah, this scene breaks me every time.
Yeah.
You just feel it. You know what I mean? You feel it all just coming crashing down on him.
As a parent, too, of two grown children now, like, you don't want to have the thought that you failed them in any way, much less like years of possibly shutting them out, just everything that happened with Patty, and that all just coming out verbally to him, you know, is like the most vulnerable we've seen him for sure.
Well, and if you think about Wayne, Wayne's thing is all about control. Right. That's all of his emotions revolve around his ability to control situations and his ability to control people, you know, even his daughters. And now he is, you know, if you think about everything that he has just discovered, and here he is laying on the floor with a gun in his face, I believe him. I believe that he's like, yeah, just shoot me, because everything that I thought is not true. I've, like, everything, you know, I failed my family. I failed this town. What do I have?
Yeah, when we were writing the scene and going through Noelle's draft and kind of playing with this, I remember on the page it was like, well, is he saying this to just get her off the scent and not to believe that he can do it or that she'll come? Or is he saying this because it's what he really believes? And then once we got into the scene itself, and then you see what David's doing, I'm like, this is what he believes. Because, and that's due to performance. That's due to going there and understanding. And I think it doesn't work if you don't have the scene in 6 where he's going to Dana and he's saying, like, I failed you. Right. And you're feeling that. So, like, these are all setups of, you know, she's shot and he feels responsible. Right. You know, he probably feels some responsibility with his wife and with M. Now, what happened to M? M was murdered. Like, okay, I have one daughter who was shot, right? And someone tried to murder her. I have another daughter who was murdered, right? My wife's gone. My police department is completely like, I've got Brent who's shooting. My other one, I've got McCrae who's working with the Czech brothers. Like, I have no control of anything. I've now created this holding facility, Riverside, and now I'm watching them build and construct a device for my daughter. Like, oh my God. What have I set in motion? And it all starts, and I remember we said this in episode 2 when he's like, Governor, I have a favor. And that phone call to the governor is the first domino in what's going through all of this stuff that's leading to this. And so I just think, yeah, if you just really start to think about the weight of what's on his shoulders and what he's going through, it's really, really hard. And this is why, like, this is my favorite David James Elliott episode for what he has so many layers that he pulls off. But here, and as we get into these scenes, upcoming, I just think there's something unbelievably special that he's doing here. And you're seeing a guy, because Wayne is close to becoming a villain. He is on, I mean, there are moments where he's about to become a villain. But then you have to humanize. And I think it's just an interesting way of like looking at the world when people are making horrible decisions, right? And it's like, but they're human. And why are they making them? Are they making them out of fear? Are they making them out of control? Are they making it out of like insecurity? What is happening? Why are people doing and saying the things that they're doing? But in his mind, he thought he was doing the right thing. And I think the world and all of these factors can really mess up our moral compass and get us so off base. And I think that is illustrated in Wayne's character, and what's there. And despite the horrible things he does, you feel sympathy so much for him here. And again, but that doesn't happen if you don't have a great actor.
Amen.
Agreed. Dana actually texts Ibrahim that they are coming for him. He's kind of the last cog in the wheel that they haven't inspected where it might be based on his connections from everybody. But Ibrahim does hear sirens growing louder as this is happening. He tries to get Em up, but she's still out of it. He brings over a vial of the water sample from Moore Creek and actually asks her to drink it. He says it's his Hail Mary. She's still a mess here. But he checks her pupils, and we hear, beating on some neighboring doors down the hall. She says she will offer herself up so that he stays safe and everybody stays safe. He goes, no. We are keeping you safe. This is for Dana as well. We're going to get you to Moore Creek. So back at Dana's house, she is piecing together everything from Black Deer to today. She sees pics of Gunderson and all in kind of the files. Her front door opens, and she pulls a gun immediately, but it's just Wayne. He says, they let him go, but he has two tails outside, and they're hoping, he's going to lead them to Martha somehow. And Dana asks, well, why'd you lead him here? And he says, well, I needed a drink. You guys were closer. This house was closer. So he tells her, the Dillish told them about him. But Dana says, that means they don't have him, and that means Ibrahim is still keeping her safe somehow. So she has faith in him, even if Wayne doesn't. But he says he does hope that he can keep him safe and hidden. So Wayne then asks what's up with the layout that Dana had pinned up on the wall, the quote-unquote murder board, I think as Dana calls it herself at one point. She says it's everything she's gathered so far, and he asked her to walk him through it. And we have some nice exchanges with Dana and Wayne here. They take some jabs at each other. From here on out, they start another, bonding from zero almost in a way. But she thinks Blaine on the bridge might just be a coincidence as an instinct, but he says her instincts got her in trouble last time. She retorts with him hiring one cop to traffic him and one who tried to kill her. But she mentions her gut as well, and Wayne kind of jabs back again, saying we should, follow evidence instead of your gut. And Dana finally just takes this personally. She's like, all these are digs at my handling of the Black Deer case. And Wayne mentions here, well, you had that guy in your grasp and you let him go. And she snaps back at him that she let him go because she knows what a dedicated, loving father is when she sees one. No thanks to him, shithead. So
these are some of my favorite scenes in the whole show.
Yeah.
I think, you've seen this bubble to this point, and to get them in a room, the truth is out, it's all laid there out bare on the table, and they're just going to have at it. Right together, and you're sort of waiting for it. And then the way Melanie and David, they're just so good together. They are just so good together. And that scene, I could just watch it forever. It's just so good, just watching them go spar. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. I feel that daughter and father, dysfunction. The things left unsaid that need to be said. And even then, they're backing. They're going to back away. They get there, but then they're just going to back away again and put it back under the rug.
And there's good information that's revealed here. We've alluded to the Blacktear case multiple times. We're now kind of finding out, I believe for the first time, that this is Dana let him get away, right? So now we know that Blacktear got away, whatever that means. This was someone who had murdered his daughter, and Dana's, jab back at him. I know a loving father when I see him. No thanks to you, and it's I think this is obviously a sore subject for her. It's something that she's had to deal with for a long time. Like in our minds, the reason why she's the person he calls about the horse case at the very beginning and like stupid Lester bullshit that nobody cares about is because she had quote unquote, fumbled the Blacktear case, right? So this is the stuff she's now resorted to. This is the stuff she has to do now, right? And it's part of why she wants to get out of town, and it's, all this. And we'll get more information about what this is, even in this episode and moving forward. But that case was, a big part of her past and a big kind of black eye that, maybe she's wears it a little more with honor now. Maybe she started to learn to understand it from a couple years ago, but because she's like, no, standing by a little bit about her instincts there. But the town sure as hell doesn't believe that she made the right call. And so it's good. And just feeling this idea now too, that Dana and Wayne are going to have to solve M's murder together. And that's just fun. It was a fun thing. Credit to Noelle for the construct of how those could come together and those scenes. I think it's like, agree with Luke completely. This scene and the next one are just wonderful.
No, absolutely. We'll get back to them in a moment. But not only is Wayne taking a roller coaster throughout this episode of emotions, but even his interactions with Dana are going from jabbing to something personal here in a moment. But actually, that is what's next. Sorry. Things actually do get tense between them when Patty comes up. He says again, he did things, I swear, with my best interest at heart for you two girls. And, he doesn't like talking about the wife or a number of the other things. Talking won't bring back the dead is kind of the button he puts on that. And he actually suggests that they run down Gunderson's supposed whereabouts. He'll do that while Dana actually chases down his financials to see if he was, the hitman on the night. But before we get back to them, we're now watching a tape on TV of Wanda tied up, standing against something. Blaine is heard off screen in that video telling her that their angel will judge you. We see Tyler watching this video with Blaine behind him. And Tyler actually seems a little affected that the subject is Wanda, just the kind of seemingly innocent old lady. We do hear, but do not see, what sounds like a killing in the video. Some crazy noises. Wanda is asking, to get away from me. A scream, some more screams, some eerie sounds. And then some in the flock in the video actually begin to start cheering and then chanting. So creepy stuff. A lot of it, eye of the beholder, off-screen stuff that we're just kind of imagining. But Tyler looks to Blaine and asks what the thing in the video was. And that, Blaine says, is how we are going to, quote, cleanse Wausau and restore my good name. And Tyler does not seem terribly comfortable in any of it, despite the recent initiation into this group.
I wish so. If you're just listening to the podcast, you should go back and watch the YouTube link of this to watch Liz's face throughout Shawn's explanation, because she's just like, okay, wait, what? WTF, WTF, like it's just like there. So Liz, clearly,
yeah. What do
there are questions.
I was in my head. I was like, wait a minute, is there 2 lobstermen?
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was coming out of my face because I didn't want to say it out loud. But now I'm nervous. Are there 2 lobstermen?
Yes.
Yes.
That is what we are. Yes.
Did everybody know that? Did everyone know that? Or did I?
We haven't seen exactly what's going on with the Blaine side of things, other than there's similar glowingness.
There's a good lobster sounds. And a bad lobster.
Yes.
Okay. And that's kind of what it feels like, I would say, right now. Blaine, we saw something happen with Jordan, and now we're hearing something happen with Wanda Peterson, who was the one who was at Lester's Jazzercise class, and so who was captured. And so what we need to take away from here is that these are two different situations and we don't know why. Why is something awful happening, presumably with a creature, just like what was with Jordan, that is clearly bad, and she's screaming. And then I think the thing to clock is she's screaming, "It's not mine," and Jordan was saying, "It's for me." And I'll leave it at that. Where
now Liz looks like the meme of Charlie Day.
Yeah. It's also the other reason to watch on YouTube is because behind you, Liz, there's like you have these paintings of these three girls.
Yeah.
And there's one that is her hands on her and is very judgmental. No, I don't like what. So every time I'm looking at you, if I'm looking for saying something, I feel like being like, no, Aaron, no, this is shit. You know,
I can just, I'll hold this up when I'm judging.
It's yeah. It is
it's even more
pretty,
judging when you see the clothes.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. It's
sassy girl.
So
no.
Well, I dropped it.
Speaking of judgy, Wayne and Dana are still at it. He asks how she was able to steal Brent's notebooks. Dana says she didn't. JP stole it for her, which is a fun little just to give you an unnecessarily but fun little thing about JP. But Wayne says Brent's writing is atrocious and he cannot figure out where he was based on his scratch paper. But again, more fun to play with him. She says he should go check the police car's GPS, which he says, yeah, I was gonna. And then he tells her to go check the patent office, and she's like, oh, yeah, I was gonna. So like both of them kind of trying to one up each other and showing they both like kind of know their stuff in certain aspects, you know, based on age and experience. But
they're also the same. That's the other thing. They're also the same.
They're the same person, yeah.
Look, this was in the Bible when Luke and I first started, creating the show, was that they are so frustrated and at odds with each other because they're the same person in many, many ways, right? I will say, like, I think that Dana has developed more empathy than maybe Wayne has at the moment, but I think you're seeing it. You're seeing those sides come out in Wayne. He has his other reasons for what it is he's doing. But they are both bullheaded, stubborn, and never wants to give in to each other. But they're very similar, and there's a great moment in 2 where they're fighting, and then they're like, not now. And they both yell, they turn their heads and yell, not now at the same time. Right. And the way that all the Cypresses are tied together, I think is like a fun thing where Dana and Em, when they're in the car in episode 1 and they're like, asshole. And they both turn and say asshole, talking about Derek, who had cheated on Dana, and you see these sides of them that are interconnected. And I think this was really fun just to see, like, correct the others, like, yeah, I knew that. And then the others, yeah, I knew that. And it's, again, just them being the same person again, and again. It's really fun.
In this same moment, Wayne sees that Brent was actually at the crematorium while on duty on revival night, no less, and not in the woods. Or he wasn't sure yet. Like, he's just piecing stuff together here. But they say they need to pay a visit to Randy, but they will need a diversion to escape this home, which is still under watch by the 2 men outside. And they start to say, we'll decide who goes. Wayne tells them, deferring to you, which leads to a fake screaming match here where they cuss each other out and threaten violence, which I very much appreciate what's about to happen here. So if I can run it through real quick, we'll talk about it. We see the armed men outside overhearing this fake fight. And, Dana actually hilariously gets upset at Wayne's choices of fake name calling in their fake fight. Like, oh, that was too far. But they escalate this actually to faking a domestic shooting. And gunshots do ring out, and that is what prompts the men to actually rush toward the house and enter. The first guy sees Dana on the floor and rolls her over, but he gets tased for the trouble. And the second guard coming in behind him gets decked from the side by Wayne. Wayne has his gun drawn at both of them on the ground, and Dana hops up and says, they make a good team, to everybody's point just now. I started crying. when Wayne jumped out of nowhere, I think I started crying. I was like, oh, they're working together.
Oh,
an amazing.
It was fun.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's one of those scenes where every take was wonderful. Every take was hilarious. And they did something a little bit different. You're just like, how are we going to cut this together? Because this is great and this is great. And, and then you hope that the energy of the moment translates, and it 100% did. And it was
So good.
it's one of my favorite scenes. They're just so funny. Yeah, and you know what? And I think we might have said this before, but I think David is super hilarious too. And there's moments in this show where he gets to show it a little bit, whether it's an eyebrow raise or just like in this scene. I think he's so funny, and I love basically giving him the option, to showcase that side of him.
It was fun. Like when Noelle delivered this, and originally it was like a different plan, and we tried to kind of keep it contained and all this and everything, and it was fun. And like the only thing that I added was a little line where she's like, "This is going to come out in therapy." And he's like, "Well, I don't do therapy." He's like, "I know," this whole thing. And then Noelle's like, "Oh, that's perfect," as like a button to what's going on. And it was just seeing. Still feeling their ire, and like he's still, even in the way they're doing it, like you were saying, Shawn, like she's frustrated, like bitch, like you can't say that, like Jesus, but then he's also correcting her when he's like, no, don't aim, like don't mess with the tiles, or whatever, like, because we had this whole backstory of like he put the tiles down in that house for her, so now he's like frustrated, like, no, I spent time to lay that tile for you, like don't do that. And then like they're upstairs and whatever, like, no, you're gonna shoot a hole through the top of the house, you aim down now again, and all this. And it was just a really fun back and forth, and to see them be themselves and try to work through some pretty awful things that they're saying to each other, in these moments. But sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to clear the air, and you have to say the unsaid to allow you an opportunity to try to move forward, because now we need them to work together. And considering all that's there and what's going on, it couldn't play that nicely. We had to see them clash, but also see them come together. And I think it was just enough. It's not like they're kumbaya, but I think there is seeing Dana enjoying working with him when he's trying, I think is a special moment, is a special feeling. And I'm glad that it emotionally resonated with you, Liz. Did not expect that to be the moment people would be crying in this episode or others, but I'll take it.
You said it's not kumbaya, but I feel like for them it kind of is their own version of kumbaya.
I mean, they haven't had many moments in their lives, it seems like, together. So this is tapping into.
They were flowing.
Yeah. As close as
relative, they've had in years.
We see now Ibrahim and him now in the woods. He is guiding him with a flashlight, remarking on how he was never a Boy Scout, but look at him now. They stop, and he actually has her sit kind of on a log, a stump for a few. And he does mention that she was having vivid dreams while she was sleeping at his place there, and she tells him it felt like, quote, an electricity was running through her. It was me, but not me. Ibrahim says, biologically, revivers are the same, but their cells do act just a little different. And M says, no, this is different. She used to be timid and fragile and not always like who she was, but now she has no idea who she is or the world around her. And, she says, you told me Jordan merged with that glowing creature and then vanished. And what if that happens to me? And, Andy, again, doing a great job here. Ibrahim's saying, you're living an unprecedented life, and it's bound to do your head in from time to time. And but despite Ibrahim's scientific brain, he saw a large thing he didn't understand either, that Jordan did not seem scared at all in the face of this large, haunting, alien-like thing. She went right toward it. She chose it. And M says in response, one of a couple lines in this little bit here, maybe not all monsters are bad. And Ibrahim actually asked if, would you go back to the old you? And she kind of clarifies, you mean if you created a cure, would I take it? This version of me saved Jordan and Cooper and stopped my sister from dying. Who would turn their back on that? And he says somebody that wanted to be normal. And again, M with another pointed line here. Screw normal. So she gets up and they continue
T-shirts.
Through the woods. Yeah,
You should put that on T-shirts. Yeah.
Not far behind them, though, is the masked burned man.
Yeah. This is I love this scene. This is a really, really special scene. And again, if you think about, you go back to episode 5, where she's like, where Ibrahim's like, I'm not lying for you, I'm lying for Dana. And he's getting thrown more and more into the middle of all this. And at this moment, at the top of this episode, and he's like, I gotta help, I got an idea. Let me try, and so she is trusting him. And they even say it, like, Wayne's even mad. He's like, how does he know, like, all this? And like, she trusts him, and how far is he willing to go for this Cypress family? And he is now dead center in the middle of all this shit, and what's going to happen. And I think it's really. I just think the scene is just really, really beautiful between both of them. And like, again, the moral compass that is Ibrahim, and just his understanding, his empathy, his care is just so sweet. I think it's beautifully shot. I think the way it's lit, and Justin Black, our DP, who needs to get more shout outs, by the way, on this, who is just a savant, just a really, really amazing DP that I think is. People talk about the look of the show and how well that is, and so much of that starts with Justin in every way. Marty as well, who supplemented some of Justin's work at some second unit and some additional DP work. But yeah, I think it's just a really beautiful scene, and you also finally get. There's not a ton of scenes of them together. You have the 5 moment in What's Here, but they kind of teamed up a little bit in 5, in a way, and what they're understanding, and he's going to help her. And then now he's continuing to help her. And I think this is really forming like a special bond. But Noelle wrote the hell out of the scene, was one that did not need much after. I mean, it's just basically what she wrote is what they're doing. And I think it's just really, really special.
100%.
Agreed. Now it's Randy's. He's talking to Dana and says, yes, Brent was there that night. He wanted to discuss some guy who was there. He had taken his own life. His family wanted him to be cremated right away. So again, I could see Brent making up some reasons to hurry up and take care of a body here. Randy with, again, hilarious asides about mental health and how he has a therapist and a life coach. And Dana tries to keep him on track, though. He adds, it was on revival day, and the poor guy revives like right as we put him in the fire, and escaped and ran past him like a flaming Cheeto. He says, he says, ran by them. Dana asks, who's the other person? Brent? He goes, no, May Tao. What was the story she was working on? Dana's suddenly very suspicious of May for why was she there right then on that hour. So
I just want to flag what's happening right now. What we're realizing is that the opening scene of the show is not what we thought. We talked about this in the podcast. There's going to be scenes that you're going to think are like, oh, this is just a fun way to introduce the show, right? And like, oh, this guy comes out of the incinerator and now he's part of something and what's there. But now we're learning that Brent was there that night, that the body that's in the incinerator was brought there by Brent, it looks like, right? Or he was there. And it's like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why was he there? Or he might have, we're trying to understand what that means. And that, so some things are not quite as they seem, right? You're just starting to kind of peel back some layers as to what happened there. And then also, I do think it's funny because he says May To, and then she's like Tao, because again, call back to the first time he mispronounces her name in the pilot. But there's, it's not adding up. So this is the first time she's realizing that May Tao was there that night, right? Because once she gets there at the end, May Tao's not there. So like something's not adding up, right? And what's going on. And we already know that May Tao is working with the masked man, or at least the masked man is feeding information to May Tao. So I just want to, as we're processing all of these things, we're taking these are all data points, for the audience to start to assemble and start to see what this means. And that, we will start to learn more about what actually happened that night in the crematorium, but it was much more than what we thought in episode 1. Yeah.
Also, big kudos to Randy for having both a therapist and a life coach.
Yes. And then he says, think power, which is my girlfriend, Katie, is she's one of the good life coaches out there because it's a weird business, but she's amazing. And her business is called Think Power. So I was like, okay, that'll be fun. It'll play. And as an homage to Katie. But yeah, the idea that Randy's like, of all people, that like he's the one who's kind of figured that, like, that he's got both a therapist and a life coach, I just think is really funny. It is like a fun aside, and credit to Graham Barrett for how he's able to play that, and what's there. I think it's a really, really fun sequence. And then he's also, that's pretty dope, and just this kind of shit that he's doing. Yeah. Another scene that goes on forever. That we end up trimming way, way back. There were so many things that he did. But Graham's such a funny dude. Yeah, another fun scene.
Yes, we're now in the early morning with Ibrahim and M at the creek. He says that the small amount he gave her kind of only gave her temporary relief, and that she needs to actually get in the water. He says it's okay, and that he'll be with her alongside her. She does enter and brings some of it up to her face. Something about it seems to be working. She falls backwards into it and actually starts to have first a flash of red, a flash of Aaron. Ibrahim begins to yell for her. We see through the water POV, but it's actually not actually her POV, but the burned man seems to tackle Ibrahim off screen here, and another flash of a figure in a deer horned mask. And M rises out of the water and says, "This is it. This is where I died." But also quickly realizes that Ibrahim is not there now.
Yeah, this is okay. So first, let's start with like Romy. Like this was freezing cold. She is really getting into the water to the point of like near hypothermia. We actually had to stop her because she was getting hypothermia because she wanted to keep going and do more takes, and we had to say you can't do anymore. Because she was just so dedicated, and she has like a skim suit and everything underneath her clothes, but still, like, I mean, it was ridiculously cold. So she's just going to it, and again, we talk about the ability of our actors to have a single damn tear, and Andy does it perfectly at the end of episode 6, and then here as M is in the water, and that was not written, that's there, she was just in the moment, and Romy was feeling it, and then she lifts her head up and a tear falls, and it were just like chills. It's just so good because she's feeling something in this water. I mean, that's what you have to get across. There is something. This is connecting with her in some way. And then not only that, we're getting a huge piece of information about her murder, that this is where she was murdered, right? I remember this is where I was murdered. Like, and that's a big deal. Knowing the scene, because keep in mind, she woke up all the way down on the waterfall, like where she was. That's downriver from where this was. So it's a pretty crazy, and it's going to be a big clue for us to then unearth from there and what this means. But not only that, but this is the water that Ibrahim is saying is special. So the water that can heal her is also where she died, I think is, what? What are you guys doing, showrunners? So there's something there to unearth.
And this mysterious person that we've sort of been alluding to, there's this other person, right? And here's our first glimpse. They're in a mask, but they're there. We're seeing that there was something else there. It wasn't just Aaron. So the pieces are starting to come together, and it's a vital scene.
Yeah. And you're seeing not only just a mask, but there's also some type of a pentagram-ish looking thing on their chest. Like it's like a culty. I mean, I think, I don't think that's any stretch of the mind to say this is looking creepy and occulty. I mean, even the night we shot it, and said perpetrator is in the mask, is it was creepy watching the with the cloak and the thing and the thing. It was like, oh wow, this is like full on horror here, so that's a big thing. So now we know where she was murdered. We now know we've known there's a conspiracy, right? We've kind of figured that out. Like, Aaron is on the phone with someone, Brent is on the phone with someone, right? So who are these people? Who is this? And now presumably maybe this is that person or tied to that person or something that was there, the night of M's murder. So is this the person that actually murdered her? That Aaron, when he says like, I took you from the bridge, but I didn't kill you, or is there something more to that and what's there? But if it is, there's, Professor Dude in like a cardigan and glasses. And then there's like fucking horned, masked, robed with a pentagram dude there too. So like weird shit.
I feel like the more I know, the less I know.
Well, we'll get there. We're winding down this episode 7. I do feel like a lot of answers and things did come together in the final moments, but we'll get there in a second. We do come back to Dana, who is sitting in a nice house, and a woman walks down the staircase and screams. She is in Maytow's home. So even the cops do B&E all throughout this series. But May asks what she's doing there. Dana asks, well, why does May have the same murder board as her? Which we do see an angle on the wall of Dana's wall also having, connecting the dots of the case. And she goes, you read my notes. Why didn't you tell me Brent was a shooter? Dana kind of asks her. And she's like, well, I didn't know for sure. But she does remind her that, you said to your actual killer to watch out for me. Dana asks if she's also trying to solve M's murder. And May, right then again, realizes she's a reviver. But no, she says she was just looking for justice for Rose and Jesse. We both know he didn't do it. Dana asks then, what that has to do with her and with M's killer and all that. And May says, Brent killed Jesse. Dana kind of quickly doesn't believe that at first, just based on what she does know, saying, no, Jesse escaped. But before she can say more, Dana jumps in with, and what were you really doing at Randy's on revival night? And May says, I was there because I saw Brent drop off a body that very evening, a John Doe. And Dana asks, well, who's the John Doe? To which May replies here, you may want to ask him yourself. So,
yeah. Big scene, a lot of information coming across here. Also fun to flag that Maytow's murder board is much more organized than Dana's murder board. For those that
she did hers in the scramble in a couple of days. May's probably
May's. But there's also interesting things on that board. If you were to pause and try to figure things out, I think that's worth examining for someone if they want to do that. And yeah, like it's okay. So now we know a John Doe, which is the Burt man. Who the hell is the Burt man? That is what was brought in by Brent, right? Brought in a body. So why is Brent bringing a body? We already know Brent's corrupt. So like it's all starting to kind of coalesce, and there's a lot of fun information here, and it's also just a really fun scene. I love the Pop-Tarts, and then she has the Pop-Tart. I love that she's got the little the makeup did the like the zit cream on a couple things and what's there, and we don't get to go into her background, but it's her grandmother lives in Wausau and has some money, and so that's why there's a really nice house. We didn't get to go into all that as far as what's there. She's not getting that on a journalist salary, but
I did want to ask why that house is so big, but I didn't think that was a good question. But thank you for answering.
No, it's relevant. I wish we could have given more explanation, but it'll come out later. But yeah, and what's here and like why, what was Maytow up to? Like why was she there, and why is she working with a person who came out? I just think is really fun. Yeah.
We are now at Riverside and see that main guard who we've caught a few times in this episode. He's walking in new employees, telling them, you see nothing, you say nothing, you leave your cell phones, etc. And one of these employees that's going to be working at Riverside is none other than young Tyler, which that's one more wrinkle we get in the Blaine story in this episode.
Yeah. So Blaine's activating, right? So we're starting to see Blaine as a plan, and now we're starting to piece together that this plan is now in action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because what does he say? What does he say to Tyler? He says, that is how we're going to cleanse Wausau. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, cleansing Wausau, he's talking revivers are bad. So it appears like Blaine, through this thing that he has, right, where, because if you in episode 5, Tyler goes, they get branded, right, with their hands. So they've got something that can burn people, revivers even, something bad. So, and now he has infiltrated the place that's going to be holding all the revivers.
You're going to kill a thing, go where the thing is. So now in the woods, May is escorting Dana, who she has in like a sleep mask, and Dana does not know where they are, but she says, what's the deal with you and Rose? And but before she can answer, they approach this small encampment with some clothes hung on a line, some string lights strewn, a couple of lawn chairs, and we see that there's somebody hanging out here. Em runs up and embraces Dana. She says she's okay and that Ibrahim fixed her. He's not there, though. Still back at Moore Creek. And she says, I couldn't bring him with me. It wasn't up to me. Someone else brought me here. So at this point, we actually see May go up and tap on the door of an RV that's in this space. Dana now approaches the RV as well, and the burned man walks out and says, "Hi, Dana." Dana sees some flashbacks of the night she saw him kind of run out in the road, when the rain was sort of sizzling him, defrying him. And it registers to her that who that is. Jesse Blackdeer? As she asks. So big moment here, but I'll just finish it up and we can talk about it. They're now inside the camper and she's confused. She says she doesn't understand. I let you go. I thought you made it out. He said, yeah, I was on the run for a couple years, but I've come back to find who killed Rose. And Maid chimes in here with, whoever killed her made sure that they were waiting for him. And he mentions his Uncle Don, who's in the camper as well. Don actually pipes up and says, I wish I could welcome you all, but I do not want Cypress troubles on tribal lands. And Jesse says to his uncle that their stories are intertwined now. And he tells him that whoever killed him killed her too. And thus we end episode 7 with a major, major reveal.
Mm.
Yeah, to clarify, whoever killed him and his Rose.
And his Rose, sorry.
Because he's, so keep in mind, the Blackdeer case was about a man who murdered his daughter. Yep. And he's saying, whoever killed my Rose killed you too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, to find out that all the Blackdeer stuff was the man in the incinerator from the get-go is Jesse Blackdeer, I think was a fun thing to play with. And now realizing that the past of Dana is colliding with her current case and her current journey, which is really fun. And will lead into what we don't mind saying is a flashback episode in episode 8, which is what we call the Blackdeer episode, and called A Rose and a Thorn. And but this was we were always like trying to figure out where you're thinking, you're trying to look at who these different potential suspects are, right? And one was the burnt man could be a suspect, and then we even thought about could Jesse Blackdeer, once you realize it's him, but it was too much there. But it'll start to if you go back and you watch stuff with the burnt man and different things. He's taking Rose files on himself and his daughter. That's what he's doing, right? Now, why is he working with May? We still don't know. We don't understand that part of this and why he's going to the press or whatever. But, when he, in episode 4, the teaser there, where he takes off his mask, you see there's a Rose Blackdeer thing there, and an article. And so it sure feels like, and he's talking about who murdered her, it sure feels like he's trying to figure out who murdered his daughter, right? And now is saying that journey is tied to Dana's journey of her murder them.
Yeah. Lots of pieces fell into place. I was going to ask if Liz was on the sense at all that it was Jesse Blackdeer.
No. I don't know anything. I was just going to suggest, this is from my own lore. I have a side lore you guys don't know about. This is from my own. I think maybe he made that murder board and dropped it off at her house. I think he's behind. He's behind. I'm breaking it now.
That's acceptable, Headcan.
Okay.
That's Jesse's murder board.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, without showing it like a cheesy TV show would do, but like all the little flashbacks of Burn Man in a row leading up to like her reveal, like, oh my God, it makes all sense now. But like, hopefully a lot of the audience did that themselves. Like, oh my gosh, he was feeding May by design, not just like this was not part of Aaron's plan to like expose things or, Cray or any of the other people. Like, no, they were working together. Yeah. So, as a true investigative journalist, she's also trying to get to the bottom of it. So.
Yeah. And a fun thing that it was a fun thing to play with because, Jesse is a big part of the comic and May is a big part of the comic, but those stories don't connect in the comics. So that was something that we did, that we developed. And, the comic does a great thing of just having, okay, there's the Revival Day story, and then there's the M murder story, and then there's the passengers in the woods, and then there's this mystery masked man who I think at one point ransacks Aaron's office in the comic, and it gets burnt, and Dana, so there's it does so well, and we wanted to do something like that, but we wanted to we wanted to kind of make those connections different and see how much we could actually pull Jesse's character into Dana's world and keep that, closer. And then, of course, it's fun to just sort of reveal the past, all these things that we're sort of talking about, and that that there's something there, there's pathos and all this other stuff, and now we're really kind of satisfying that, and I think that's a fun thing to play with, and I'm proud of kind of where this story goes. I'm not 8 is a very special episode to me, especially. So getting there, and it's one of my favorite parts of the season is kind of the Jesse Blackdeer track that we've done.
To Aaron's point, recently he said on a previous episode about like at some point you have to answer some questions, even if you're going to bring up 10 more, you still need to answer a few. And I thought the Jesse reveal connected so many dots and kept people. I would hope that would be satisfying enough for them to like, oh, okay, so that's why he was there and that's why he was not there. And so yeah, good job on that. In fact, like yes, there's more questions abound, but like I thought this wrapped up a nice few just out of the Birdman alone for sure.
Yeah. There's and we'll go into 8. We'll help solidify some of that too. As a flashback, it'll lead up to some things, and you'll get more information there. But I think, you can also start to so if you start to deduct, right, and you were to rewatch 1 through 7, he believes that M's murder is tied to Rose's murder. So then this makes sense that he's following M. And then following M would lead him to following Aaron. She's going to Aaron. There's some things there. So he's now, you know what I mean? Like there's some things that start to connect and some things that start to figure out. Because if he thinks something, so if Aaron did something to M and he thinks someone did something to Rose, like, could they be tied? Could Aaron be a part of this? And that's why he's at Aaron's house, at Aaron's, like the office that's ransacked, is presumably from him. I think that's a reasonable conclusion for the audience to start to draw if you were to go back and rewatch. I'm not expecting everyone to immediately, connect all those, but it's all there. All of that exists. So if you were to rewatch, and again, why we've always stressed, like, there's not these innocuous moments. There's not, it's all, there's so many clues to so many things and so many layers that are going on. And, I think a lot of other shows or different things could try to make, the Blackdeer case is just character. Like this happened to her, and that could be good. Don't get me wrong. Like, cause this is a story that happened in the past, and that's just a character building thing. And some of that can be really great, but the economy in our storytelling that it forced us to have, we can't really do that. Everything has to have some tie. And then we want you to care about Rose Blackdeer and Jesse Blackdeer and care about the case. And the way to care about that is to tie it to M's case. And so to justify where we're going to go in episode 8, I think it's needed to realize, like, so now we're all trying to figure out who killed M. Well, now we've heard who killed Rose killed M. So that means transitive property. If we can figure out who killed Rose, we're going to know, we're going to have our answers. So now we're going to go on a journey in episode 8 of who killed Rose.
Would you be able to figure it out not seeing episode 8?
I think you would need to I think that if you were to go back and rewatch the episodes knowing the end of 7, I do think there are a lot of, and if you were trying, you're like, okay, what is Jesse? Why is he here? And you're like, okay, you like list your top 10 questions, and then you go through and you're like watching, thinking about those questions. I do think that those answers do exist within the first 7 episodes, but we're not hitting you over the head with it. You do need to go with a purpose of looking and like, okay, there's a Blackdeer reference. What does that mean? And I will say, one of the ways that we do help you is in the recaps. In the recaps of the episode, sometimes I think they get too on the nose. And there's moments where they'll be like, Blackdeer, and then they show him, and I'm like, so I hate recaps, but I always fought against them. But it was we are trying to tell you some things that are important that are there too, but that's cheating.
With week to week,
in my mind.
It is. I don't want to say it's a necessary evil, but yeah, I used to not love them either. But if they kind of would tell you like, this episode is going to be about this character, it's helpful to.
It's helpful. Our story is dense. Our story is dense, and there's a lot to pay attention. We're asking the audience to pay attention to a lot of things, and so I would say they are a necessary evil.
But folks who've been just down the road, I mean, they'll have a lot of that stuff fresher in mind either way, so they won't need the recaps. Because I'm always surprised, like, so Sci-Fi includes them even on their on-demand versions and everything. It's not just like the live viewers who get it, and I believe Peacock shows them attached as well, right?
Oh, they're edited into the episode. Yes.
Yeah. Previously.
Yeah, we do them. We edit those, and we decide what's there and what's not, and the music and everything, with our editors. So like it's part of the episode, and there are things that are helpful. I mean, what we've learned is we need to give some context to some people, but now with the black tear of this all, I think, and yes, to what Luke was saying too, like there were a couple episodes that like Luke and I, we obviously wrote the pilot. We're obviously going to write the finale, but in between there, we end up writing 2 as well, but the episodes that we wanted to write the most, like within the meat of the series, was beyond the bookends, were episode 6 and episode 8. They were 2 things on our board, our own, not murder board, but, board of show board, that were just big swings for us to try in very different ways, right? Like very different ways. And I think the emotional ride of episode 8 is really, really powerful. It's another one people might cry, I will say.
I will.
Well,
I promise.
Liz did a happy cry this one, so I think we'll be in for good side cries too.
Yeah.
I'll mark down all my cries.
Plenty of them.
All right. To Aaron's point, you have homework. Write down your 10 questions now, then watch episode 8, and then mark off all the 10 that got answered, and we'll talk about the rest with the guys if you can solve it.
And go back to 7 and pause on the murder board is what I'm going to do with the rest of my afternoon.
Well, it might not. Okay. You'll have to see future episodes to also help.
Okay.
But it will. You'll realize there's stuff.
Go screenshot it. Just save it. Put it.
I will say the biggest head trip that I had was I worked very hard on what was in Dana's murder board and what was in May's murder board, and trying to constantly put yourself in a position of what does Dana know at this point and what does May know at this point, where those crossover was fun to say the least, I guess. It was a mind trip for sure.
No, again, good job all around from everybody here once again, and Noelle for writing this episode alongside you guys with everything you assisted with, including dual murder boards. So
yes,
amazing.
Yeah, no, bravo again, and this episode, like you said, was a lot of fallout, a lot of catch your breath from episode 6, but a lot of interesting information, a lot of great moments again with Ibrahim and everybody. So,
well, we have,
as always,
we have multiple big bads now. That's the other thing now too, right? So now you have Blaine, who's obviously on a mission. He can hurt revivers. Something's happened with Wanda, and so that puts in harm's way potentially of revivers. And then you have General Kale, who's out looking, who earlier in the episode they say is looking for Jordan, who probably not going to find, and then is looking also for Wanda Peterson, who now we hear presumably what has happened to Wanda Peterson at the hands of Blaine. So there's a couple big bads here as we get to our end. There's only 3 episodes left, and in episode 8 a lot of it is a flashback. So there's really 2.5 episodes left. Although the flashback in 8 is going to help you with a lot of information to get there. So it's it's a lot of fun, but it is coming to a close. We are ramping down now, and again, I just stress for those that are willing to kind of stick with it, I believe you will get your answers. And I know all I can say is that Katie of Think Power Life Coach, that may or may not help Randy. She was very worried going into the finale. It's like, oh, you have a lot. What are we going to get between watching like 9 and 10 and getting in there, and then came away very like, oh, Thank you. Thank you. You answered my questions. So, which was really great.
That's one testimonial. We'll see. No,
Yeah.
we have full faith. You've given the audience no reason to not have faith that you will do the job. So, again, we will let you go. Safe travels to and from San Diego Comic-Con. We're excited that you're getting to present some stuff with the main actors on the show, and we will be back for folks hearing this for 108, the Black Deer episode, as they're telling us a very large flashback one. So be prepared for that, and we will talk about everything in and around it with these guys next week. So thank you both, gents.
Thank you both.
Tell Lou Ferrigno I said hi. I'm sure he'll be there.
It's at every one of those cons. I think.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to be there. I promise.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Take a photo up with him, and we'll call it Luke Ferrigno. you and him just pose together. So
Absolutely.
all right. Yeah. No, thank you guys. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you again to the gents for the discussion on episode 7. We're moving now to a chat with an actor who some may know as Harmon Rabb on the long-running series JAG, the program that launched 1,000 NCISs, as well as series including everything from The Untouchables to the Starz original program Heels, among many, many more. But if you're tuning in here, you may know him best as Sheriff Wayne Cypress, the patriarch of the Cypress family, the ever-beleaguered Midwestern dad of Revival. He is David James Elliott. David, thank you so much for joining us on the program here.
Yay.
Thanks for having me.
A pleasure to talk with you.
Yes, nice to see you in person-ish. We wanted to go back to the early days when we kick off here, and I wanted to ask if acting was always the path for you, or did you have dreams of something else before acting found you?
No, I fell into acting. I had a go at being a rock star, and I was just at a juncture. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And somebody suggested, one of my teachers said, we read King Lear in class in history of theater, which was like a bird course. I was just trying to finish high school. And she said, you should be an actor. My brother knew some actors at university where he was attending and asked them for some advice. And they said, you should audition for Ryerson Theater School, which was, they said, the best in Canada at the time, because I'm Canadian. And so that's what I did. I auditioned for theater school, and out of like 1,200 people, they picked 30, and I somehow got in. I had never seen a play. I read a book called How to Audition by Michael Shurtleff. That's how I found out how to even audition. And
it really worked out for you.
In the rough, they told me, and, so that's what happened. That's how I got into it.
That's crazy. Wait, so what kind of rock star were you going to be?
That's what I was going to ask.
I was in a band. I'm in a few different bands, and we were making a go of that and playing around Toronto. And but it was, trying to keep 4 people focused on the same dream was very difficult. And the band would break up all the time, and I just got frustrated with that. I knew I could count on me, and I couldn't count on those 3 other guys. So I abandoned that dream and went back to school. I had quit high school to make a go of the band. I went back to high school, and then that happened. And after I graduated, I went to Ryerson for university and studied theater for 4 years.
Cool.
That's
never
crazy.
Back, yeah.
So acting was easier than becoming a rock star.
I knew I could rely on me. I couldn't rely on those other 3 clowns. So,
were you the guitarist or the singer?
I took the safe route. I was an actor.
Yeah. That's what everybody says about acting.
These bassists and these drummers are unreliable. So I'm guessing David was either the guitarist or the singer.
You want to count on something. Yeah. Go into acting.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, nothing else really interested me. So I always felt a creative bent, and I was lousy at math, and nothing else really appealed to me. So here I am. Many years later.
Been working steady since then, so congrats on that. But So we've seen the character of Wayne really go through it these last couple episodes. He was a man who thought he was in control of his police force, his family, his town, his Reviver Roundup program, but it's kind of all come crashing down in just a matter of a few days for him. And with episode 7, we're really feeling the House of Cards kind of fall down on you, but we were very complimentary to you earlier, Luke, Aaron, and everyone, just on how well you sold that scene in Riverside. You've got the gun to you and you kind of lay it all out there. And how Wayne himself teeters on villainy a time or two throughout this season, but you credit to you, bringing a human aspect to him. So no matter how wrongheaded his decision making might be, you actually feel that he is justified in those decisions. So again, credit to you for just bringing like a warmth to Wayne and a humanity to Wayne. Was that something you found difficult to do? The dramatic, kind of putting it all out there moment in that episode 7, or?
I mean, there's always a process, and you got to be open, emotionally. I'm fairly always been an emotional person, so I mean, nothing is easy, but you hope it shows up on the day. I mean, I always listen, nobody's ever bad. They intend to be bad. Everyone's looking to feel better. Everyone's looking for they're not evil people aren't, don't set out to be evil, I think, necessarily, unless they're, sick. So I always just look for the humanity. I mean, I played Harmon Rabb Jr., which was a human being in a very rigid, structured environment. And I always looked to find the human aspect within that, right? I try not to fall into cliches and fight against it. And I just, look for the truth in every moment. And sometimes I have success and sometimes I don't, One of the reasons I rarely watch anything I do if I can avoid it, because all I see are mistakes, things I wish I'd done. Oh gosh, we get that one. The other thing, just whatever it is. So it's painful. I find watching. I let my wife or my kids watch, and they let me know how I did, and I'll just believe them. Okay.
I relate to that so much. You also like to show some of your comedy chops in this show, namely in this episode, where you and Dana have that fake fight and team up, and I love it, and I cried for some reason.
Oh, really?
I did. Is comedy
I was afraid of that scene. I went, oh, God, I hope this isn't too cheeseball. I was terrified that it was going to be. In fact, I think I looked over when it was first written. I went in and I worked with them on it, and they made some changes based on conversations we had, and I just didn't want it to look forced or cliche, or it needs to be based in reality for me. If it's just there without being earned, then I can't. It's too horrible to be a part of that. I can't do it.
Well,
so I'm glad to hear that it worked out, but I was terrified of that scene. I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to?
Yeah. Well, and maybe you'll never know if you don't watch it, but just trust me.
Well, I'll take your word for it.
All right. It was really good.
All good.
Is comedy something you wish you could do more of, or do you feel more?
I mean, I've done, I did, I would love to do a comedy. I've been on some comedies. I was on Seinfeld for an episode. I did a pilot for a sitcom that was very funny, but sadly it didn't get picked up. But apparently it wasn't my fault. I've guest starred on a bunch of sitcoms, and would love to do one. That's the greatest job in show business. You shoot a couple episodes, you get 2 weeks off, you come in. When you do work, you work an hour. Yeah, we're going to rehearse. We'll start around noon. You'll be done by 3. And then you put on a play at the end of the week, and then with an audience, and then you go home and you make all the money in the world, and you barely work. It's a great gig. Yeah, hour-long television is brutal.
Ooh,
You
yeah.
just work all the time. It takes forever. You sit around. I mean, it's exhausting. Um, you
Well,
know,
you're from the school of a 10-year long program that was back when 22 episode season runs were a thing too. So
yeah, and we
I
would
can
do
only
like
imagine.
often more, 25, 26
Yeah.
episodes a season. So yeah, it was, and we were working like on JAG. We certainly for the first 5, 6 seasons, we were working on average 18, 19-hour days. They just couldn't
Wow.
seem to find a way to shoot that show. It was a big show. And so I remember lining up for third meal Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. And, my eyeballs were hanging out of my head. We were going into hour 27. It was
That feels illegal.
dangerous driving
It's fourth
home.
meal, yeah.
It's just exhausting. And I remember Don, the executive producer, Don Belisario, called me into his office and said, "Hey, been talking to the director of photography. He said, you're looking a little ragged, man. Are you burning the candle at both ends?" I went, are you kidding me? I'm
Production
working
is
19, 20 hours a day, Don. If I look like crap, that's your fault. Yeah.
Who makes the schedule, Don?
Don't worry about it. I mean,
burning candles is a DP's job, but yeah,
yeah.
running me ragged. So it's funny you mentioned some of the hurry up and wait, the stand around that is part of just being an actor.
Yeah.
The guys talked in an earlier episode that kind of certain music was picked for each character, and even you had like a folky track for the Wayne character when you see him in his house in an early episode. Do you have a certain genre or even like a musical act you'll play in between those times on set, or are you like a zone out with audiobooks or podcast kind of guy?
No, I can't take my head out of the game that deeply. I see people reading books. I can't do that. I usually, when we were shooting this, because we shot 5 episodes at a time, in my time off, I had, the 5 episodes we were working on in a book, and I would go and just read through to make sure that I was present and emotionally where I was supposed to be for whatever we were sitting. Because that's basically 5 hours of story that we're plucking little bits here and there out of. So it's very, it took a lot of effort, a lot of concentration to maintain a through line through that. So that's generally how I spend my time. I try not to, I try to stay away from the craft service table if at all possible, and avoid bored eating, because that's a dangerous area and not one that I'm always successful at avoiding. But but that's generally what I do. I can't do anything. I might play a video game. That's as far away as I get. I got to keep my head in it.
Good for you. And God bless the people that can compartmentalize that way.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe they're secretly got their sides in those books. We don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
You know what they're doing to get a leg up in the game,
Right.
Yeah.
I know you said earlier that when you play a character, you try to find the human moments. With Wayne, is there any, besides that, are there any speech or mannerisms or anyone in particular, like a patriarchal figure or any, like a mentor in your life? Was this like were you trying to like base this on anyone?
I guess probably portions of the character of Wayne I would base on well, there's one guy who comes to mind who you wouldn't know, but I used a little bit of him in Wayne. But often other characters I've used this guy a lot. He was a Hell's Angel. He's a dear friend of mine. He's no longer with the club, but he's a big, gruff guy, and he's a good character to steal bits and pieces from. I have a few friends that are very, large characters that I use from time to time.
Did you tell them? Did they know?
I didn't tell them. No.
Yeah. Well, Tim Seeley, who actually created the Revival comic, he had kind of said more or less he based the character on his own Midwestern dad. I don't know if you know that about that, Liz, but
I heard him say that at Comic-Con just last weekend.
He said when he first saw you on set that he remarked that you looked more like his dad than his dad. So like with the beard, with the facial hair. So yeah, I guess you nailed whatever kind of Midwest dad they were going for. I guess the facial hair really helped. But yeah, you certainly filled out.
I mean, the minute the show was over, I shaved that thing off, man. I'm not
it's maintenance. Trust me, I don't. I look like Private Pile without it.
No, you look good with it. Yeah, you look good with it. I don't know. It just bothered me. I'd look at my face and went, who is that guy? God dang.
It's Wayne.
Yeah, it's Wayne. Yeah, I didn't want to be Wayne when the show was over. We'll go back to being David.
I get that.
So we recorded with Aaron and Luke before they went off to San Diego that we just mentioned. How was your Comic-Con experience? Was it your first time, or have you?
Yeah, it was the first time. Yeah, it was fun. It was exhausting because I had to drive from the desert. I didn't stay there, so it was like a 3-hour drive to get there, and I had to be there. They wanted me there at 8:45 in the morning, so I had to get up at like 3:45. Drive there, then we worked all day. I mean, we went from one interview to the next, and we signed 1,000 posters, and people were lined up. And then we went back and did more interviews, and then I had to drive home at the end of the day, and then I'd turn around and do it again the next day.
Oh my God!
I mean, it wiped me out. It took me a couple of days to recover. It was exhausting. It was fun, and I, hopefully successful. But it was exhausting.
No, I imagine rewarding just because you're seeing fans. You know that your work is resonating.
Yeah, and we're reaching out. We're doing all these interviews. I don't know how many of them made the grade, or had airtime or whatever. But we're trying to bring them in one at a time. Right? I think what did I see that it's streaming in the top 20 right now?
I saw that. Yeah.
Just watching some other sites have done some analytics, and it's doing very, very well. Yeah. You can't always trust those top 10s on the streamers. Those are not based on any real data, not to expose the curtain of the streamers, but Revival is definitely doing very well. And again, I'm glad they gave you a little bit of red carpet treatment at the convention, of course. You said you don't know how much of it, you were doing Entertainment Weekly and all this and that, but I will say you were asked about a Jag reboot or are you reuniting, reprising, rebooting. That got some press for sure, picked up by a decent amount of outlets. So I know you came back to play the character for an arc on one of the NCIS programs before, but is there talk of more? Is there
talk?
Have you pitched Rab as like kind of a figurehead for one of the new spinoffs? I think he'd be a good, he's now a general, not just a judge advocate.
Well, that's what I talked. The producer on NCIS LA was a friend of mine. He had been a writer on JAG in the first 2 seasons, Scott Gemmell, and then went to ER, ran ER for a while, then, among a bunch of other shows. And then he has the Pit right now. But he was running NCIS LA, and I had gone in to pitch an idea with Rab, running Miramar at the time. And, it was an interesting idea, I thought. And he said, that's great. However, Don may still own that, probably still owns that. I don't know he said, I don't know legally if CBS owns JAG or if Don Belisario owns it, whether we need permission, but we can take the character and let's do an arc on my show and then we'll talk to CBS about it. So, but somebody new at CBS had come in and they weren't really interested in rebooting anything. This was some years back. So I don't know of anything other than obviously there's interest. People,
you're asked about it.
Not enticing. So hey,
sure. Sounds like you're open to reprising the character if the time is right, the show's right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's hope Revival goes longer too.
Oh yeah, we
can do both. That would be good.
Yeah. Get some of them 20-hour days back.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah, I love that.
You love it.
Yeah, I love that.
He really wants another 20-hour day and a beard. What are you doing to this man?
Yeah.
Yes.
Big beard next year.
Oh, we're manifesting your hell, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, you are. Yes, you
are. We've asked, I think almost everybody. Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of acting that might surprise people?
I play golf every day. I live on a I live in a golf community. I have 2 golf courses here, and I play golf every day. I play guitars. I write screenplays, and I. What else do I do? I work out.
Okay.
6 days a week, probably. I'm on the Peloton, and then I go to the gym, and that's it. I try to stay in shape, eat healthy, find a little time. I watch a little TV at the end of the day, but not a lot.
It does not seem like you would have time to watch TV.
Yeah. I find a time at the end of the day. I do it.
Do you own a golf
cart? I have
cart?
2 birds and 2 dogs.
2 birds and 2 dogs.
2 birds.
How long do those birds live?
25, 30 years. We found one on the golf course. The bird was, I showed up and the starter at the club had this cockatiel on his shoulder. And I said, dude, you brought your bird to work? And he said, no, it flew down and landed and went to sleep on my shoulder. I guess he escaped from somebody's cage and was hungry and tired and saw people and went, people, food, let me go there. And I said, well, what are you going to do with them? And he's like, I don't know. I can't take them home. I got cats and all these other guys. I was asking some of the other guys who worked there. Nobody wanted them. So I knew he would die. So I'd had a canary before and I like birds. So I said, no, I'll take them. So I took them. And then we felt he needed a friend. So we got another one. So now we have 2.
There you go. Liz, your
Anyway.
answer is the outside of the realm of normalcy hobby is bird dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I had a canary before, I found him too in the parking lot at CVS flying around. He escaped out of somebody's cage and he couldn't fly more than a couple feet off the ground. And so I chased him around the parking lot and I got him and I brought him home and he lived, maybe 10 years and we had him. It was great. So I rescue birds from the wild.
He's a bird rescuer.
And we had another thing we had for a long time. I found an alligator lizard in a bucket of lime in my backyard when I lived in LA. I thought it was dead. I went to throw it away and he moved a little. I went, oh my God, he's still alive. It's this little, we had him for 15 years. Little alligator lizard. He was blind when I got him. I guess he was blinded by the lime. And so I used to have to cripple crickets to feed him because he couldn't really see them. He could sense they were there. But his eyes cleared up over time. One eye eventually opened, and then a year later, his other eye opened. And they're vicious, but he never bit me. The whole time I had him, I could take him out. He just was not aggressive towards me or my wife and our kids. And
What was his name?
Alfred, the alligator lizard. Yeah.
You're like a secret Steve Irwin.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I was going to say that, or lizard on a shoulder, bird on a shoulder. He's half pirate. I don't know. Just missing an eye patch here.
I do like fishing too. That's the other thing I do because I have houses in the Bahamas. My father is from the Bahamas.
Interesting.
He's passed now, but so I grew up going to the Bahamas my whole life, and so over time we bought houses, so we go there a lot, and I spear fish. I deep sea fish. I do a lot of fishing.
You forgot about all these things when I asked what your secret hobby was.
Started with golf and a guitar.
I got a lot of secret hobbies. And I also learned to fix things when I'm down there from YouTube. So I'm pretty handy now. Yeah,
YouTube will do. I learned how to do my brakes.
Oh, you did? Oh, good.
It took 4 or 5 hours, but I saved $500.
Exactly. Why would I? That's in the Bahamas. You really can't find anybody to do stuff. And if you do find someone to do it, you got to stand next to them the whole time they're doing it to make sure they do it right. So I went, I might as well just do it myself, Yeah. So that's what I do. I go on YouTube. I see how to fix the garbage disposal or whatever, and then I do it myself.
Been there. Yeah, definitely glad we asked you that. That's a lot of interesting hobbies. You did mention guitar.
I've painted the houses many times.
Nice. The old rock star in you never gave up the guitar. If we're sitting around and you have the guitar with you, what's kind of your go-to that you'll serenade folks with, or what's What's the one you can play really well?
I play. Oh my gosh, I play. I don't know. I have a repertoire. I have about 25, 30 songs that I can play pretty well. Do a lot of Beatles stuff, Little Feat, some old rock and roll. I do 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. I can do that. That's pretty jazzy. There's a lot of jazz chords in that. I did right after JAG. I took. You can do Berklee School of Music for the guitar online. It's like a 10-week course. It's pretty intense. And you have these assignments, and every week you have to record yourself and send them in. So I did that. I did chords, I did scales, and then I did blues. So I did 3 10-week courses on that. And I got pretty proficient with the guitar. It was great. Good fun. But a lot of work. I mean, you had to put in serious 4 or 5 hours a day, every day, working on this stuff. So,
No, worth it though. If you it seemed like you still had a love for it after all the.
Yeah, I did. When we were on JAG, I had them. There was a guy who was a great guitar player, and he was struggling trying to make it in the music business, and he needed a job to help support himself. And I got him a gig standing in. I think he was Patrick Laberteau's stand-in. I got him the job, and I just said, we play guitar whenever there's a break. So we'd go to my trailer, and he taught me all kinds of stuff. So that was handy.
That's awesome.
That's another thing that I often do is I'll bring a guitar to the set, and if I have a scene off, it's something that I can do that so I'm not wasting my time standing around, gossiping, or sets are, it's like you're a carny, right? I mean, there's you can fall into a lot of bad habits. So I try to find something constructive in my downtime. If I have to stay on the set, you can't really play. But if I have real time off, like a whole scene or 2 scenes, I'll go to the trailer and play guitar.
Awesome.
No, I don't blame you. It seems like a constructive way to pass the time compared to some of the other.
Better at guitar, man.
I like the idea. The carny life. It is. You're right. It's easy to fall into a lot of bad habits. With that much hurry up and wait time. But speaking of hurry up and wait, we will not keep you much longer here. We do want to say thank you for joining us. We loved this arc of the Wayne character, which is not even done yet, but just seeing the vulnerability, the emotion, and stuff kind of drawn out of him in this episode.
That's great. Yeah, it was fun to play, and great. What a great cast, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it doesn't hurt when you're bouncing off of good folks.
Enjoyed my time working with those people, and it's certainly not always the case. More often than not, it's not the case. There's always a couple of bad eggs, but on this one, everybody was great, and I my 2 daughters were terrific, and Andy and Stephen Ogg, and we just had a good time working together.
No, certainly. We're excited to see what comes of Wayne Cypress, and you as well. We are looking forward to seeing you in more stuff. Some comedies, some JAG reboots. We'll see. But
I hope so.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time here with us, David, and take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
All right. We appreciate David James Elliott for taking the time with us there. Episode 7, a little more of a resetting of the table for Dana, for M, for Wayne, and for the town of Wausau, with some real stakes in play here now with the military rolling through a town, which is not scary at all, or realistic, But no, we got a lot of answers, and some of the Jesse Blackdeer stuff connected some dots for us. That's very cool. Let's we'll read a couple comments we picked up as we got out of the viewing.
We got Casey, aka the Vegan Herper, on Twitter said, Wayne and Dana needed this table talk and case bonding. They're alike in so many ways. This whole scene with the arguing and throwing the lamp is hilarious. We make a good team. I know. Love it. What an episode. Good shit. Agree. Good shit.
It was. That fake fight's one of the highlights, I think, of the season so far, especially when they were going too far with each other. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Tell me that. It's just Jade via the TV Time thread said, what an amazing episode. So much has happened that gave us answers and more questions. Haha. The real conversations in this episode and the show in general are one of the things that make this show so great. It's quite rare to see nowadays, especially in movies and shows with action and stuff. I'm glad they're given the right amount of space in each episode. And what a full circle moment for M to be healed in the place where she was killed. Good job, Ibrahim. I'm so glad both her and Dana are now okay and are reunited. And also the burn guy being good was not on my bingo card. That's what I love about the show. It keeps surprising me. Can't wait for next episode.
Eros via the TV time thread. You're responsible for all this mess with the military, Wayne. Also, the burned man, didn't expect him to be nice. He seriously freaked me out at first. Yeah. Same.
Well, that's what happens when you judge people on appearances, Eros. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, not me at all.
There was a lot of misdirects.
I didn't do that too.
Caden J on X said, the hell is in Blaine's shed? Is that thing like the evil version of the glowy thing? Is it a creature just like it, but they have it caged and angry? Either way, I hope it kills all those cult assholes.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Liz is over Blaine. He's no longer fun crazy. Yeah.
Really thought I was going to like him.
I mean, he's definitely compelling as an actor, obviously on screen, but yeah, Blaine is... it's funny, I did see a complaint too in one of the threads where it was like, every American show has some kind of religious cult subplot, and everybody was like underneath going, yeah, have you been to America? Like, it doesn't take much for them to... Can you imagine if this happened in real life and people came back from the dead? Again, that's what I've mentioned The Leftovers a few times. Like, part of what made that show resonate for people is how there was insane sects of people, sects.
Oh, darn.
That just like became a cult and became like, nihilists about it or became super religious about it. And like, that's exactly what would happen. Things happen here that are not as severe as people coming back from the dead, and we form crazy cults and drink the Flavor Aid. Just read a book.
You just want a daddy.
Half of America right now refuses to believe anything negative about the daddy in charge. That's happening.
Oh,
sorry,
that's American daddy.
Soapbox, throwing it to the side. No more of that. But yes, if you have some theories or any additional predictions or even some comments or general questions for the showrunners, you can always also email us at revival@paperstreetpictures.com. I've kind of wedged a few of those into the recaps thus far, but that's probably your best bet to kind of participate, but we will also still pull some comments off of the social medias. But I want to thank David James Elliott, of course. I want to thank Aaron B. Koontz and Luke Boyce, your Revival creators, showrunners, and EPs, for the insights on episode 107 and for answering, like I said, a lot of the questions, connecting a lot of dots for folks, as well as making new dots for Liz's murder board.
I know. They have so much patience with me.
I know. But yes, thank you as well, Liz, for helping me steer the ship as always. Number 7 in the books, as is this compendium recap. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. We'll find you on the next one to discuss episode 8, which is called A Rose and a Thorn. For Aaron, Luke, and Liz, I am Sean Talley, someone who is also would say he knows a dedicated, loving father when he sees one. No thanks to you, shithead. Saying we'll see you back here soon.
Bye.
Shithead.